Big screen. Share.
Little technical difficulties this morning, folks.
Oh, I didn't know you actually already started the live.
Oh, there we go. There we go.
Crypto is on the rise, making that dough in the crypto paradigm. Watching it go, buying low, selling high. Riding the wave, I'm here to stay, living in the digital age. No banks, no fees, just decentralized. It's crypto paradise. Ooh. No banks, no fees.
Alrighty, good morning from Paradise Surfers. My name is Crypto. I'm Rory of Crypto Hitman in the house. As always, it is Thursday, October 2nd. The market is looking juicy. We were searching around, the news sites for various stories, and we started to pick out a couple. Look, Bitcoin, I think, is poised to break above its all-time high and head towards that $130,000, $150,000, $200,000 mark by the end of Q4 2025 here. But what are some of the catalysts that's going to spur on this tremendous bull run? It's going to be technically based, of course, but there's also going to be macro news behind it. So we pull up a couple good stories for you guys today. The biggest one, the United States is now rumored to be looking at using some of its gold reserves in order to buy Bitcoin. Now, it's just a rumor as far as we can tell, but where there is smoke, there is often fire. So we will see where that story takes over the next few days and weeks. We've got some other stories to cover for you guys. Sweden is looking to get into the Bitcoin game. We saw Kazakhstan. I saw a story about Kazakhstan coming in hot with a BNB purchase, or proposed one anyway. Shout out to CZ there. So nation state FOMO is a real thing, and that's just one of the reasons why we think Bitcoin is poised to do explosive gains throughout the end of this year.
Everything's playing out as we have thought it would. Obviously, this consolidation up here maybe a little longer or a little deeper than people wanted, but we're back up to 119,000, 120,000. A lot of good bullish macros, and the U.S. government is still closed. And why does that matter? Well, 80% of the time when the U.S. government is closed, Bitcoin and gold go up. And this time is no different. Bitcoin has now gone up from $108,000 to $119,000 since the U.S. government has closed. Now, I'm not rooting for the U.S. government to stay closed. I want them to get their stuff done, get back to work. That's what the tax dollars are for. But hey, I can't argue with the green candles in the market. I know yesterday the rumor was that the government might be closed for 12 days. And I said, well, does that mean that Bitcoin goes up for 12 days straight? Well, we'll see. This is day 2 or 3 now, and it's going straight up and straight green. At some point here, you probably have some profit takers consolidation, but I think you are right. The trend is your friend. The history is your friend. New all-time highs by end of 2025, and we're looking for big numbers. We've run the math. I'm sticking with 244,000. I don't know if we get there by the end of this year, but I think by the end of the cycle, because we believe 2026, the cycle continues. But we did run the numbers on what Q4s have done, and 170 is very feasible based off history that we've seen in price performance in Q4s in the past.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned the shutdown, because, here at Crypto Paradise, we don't just look at events or situations in a vacuum, right? You have to look at the wider context to really, truly analyze and understand what's going on. So why is it that the shutdown in this scenario would cause Bitcoin, and in this case gold, to go up? Well, there's really 2 reasons in my mind. One, it just demonstrates further that you can't trust these governments, you can't trust fiat currencies, the dollar's a shit coin, and you got to get into hard assets. But we already knew that. The other reason is that because the government is shut down, the Fed now can't get data that they were otherwise going to get around payroll, jobs, labor market, et cetera, and also inflation data. They can't get that because that comes from another government agency who's shut down right now. And so they now will have to rely on private sector data. And the scary or beautiful, depending on your perspective, thing about the private sector data now is it's showing that the economy is even worse than what the government data was showing. There were some numbers that come out a couple days ago from ADP, which is probably the biggest payroll processor here in the United States, that the U.S. lost a ton of jobs, 100,000 plus jobs over the past month. So I mean, not only are we not gaining jobs, we're actually losing jobs according to this private sector data. So another reason why the Fed is all but guaranteed now to cut at the end of October. So the shutdown, little silver lining there. Now they can't get the government data. They're relying on the private sector data, and the economy is looking even worse than we had thought.
The next cut is happening this month, and then I guess the next bets would be, do we get another cut in November and or December? We shall see, and we do know they have proposed cuts all the way through early 2026 to get to kind of that target of 2.5 to 3% interest rates, which would be absolutely miraculous for Bitcoin in my estimation. I also think it will get a lot of people out of the money markets and into other investments, which is great for our bags as well.
Yeah, I think because Powell's speech, there was a lot of trepidation, there was a lot of circumspection, there was a lot of, in other words, he wasn't clearly saying, yes, we are gung-ho about quantitative easing and we are absolutely going to proceed with a series of cut after cut after cut until we hit 2.5%. He didn't say that. He basically said, well, there's a lot of people, almost 50% of the people on the committee don't think that we should aggressively move towards quantitative easing. That's almost one of the things he said. Anyway.
Almost now, 50% seems like less than 50%, which means they lose.
Correct. Now, that is very true. There, but it's not. But I guess what the market took that to mean is, hey, there's a chance they might not cut. Right. There's a chance they might not do it. But as the data, and we said this, as the data was going to come out, right, the economy, as it's heading in a direction, tends to continue to stay going in that direction until something abrupt changes. It's something major actually changes and causes a reversal. So if you're starting to see jobs deteriorate, and if you're seeing inflation going down, those trends pretty much will stay in the same direction up until the Fed does enough to spur it going in the other direction. And so it was reasonable to think, all right, the economy is going to continue to show these bad numbers, they will cut. But his conference didn't instill a lot of confidence. But now finally, I think the market participants have realized that, wait, they are going to end up cutting, not just once, not just twice, but into 2026, and then Powell gets replaced in May, probably with someone super dovish. And so, look, you got to be looking at the trend of these things, these long-term direction of where these things are going, get out in front of it, and that's what we're here to help you guys with at Crypto Paradise.
Yeah, so let's take a look at the charts and what is Bitcoin doing. We kind of talked about it going straight up since the U.S. government shutdown, and that is exactly what the chart has done. It is up 10.21%, and for Bitcoin, that is a massive gainer. To put in perspective, this is what stock market participants want for a year, and Bitcoin did it in the matter of a week. So that is pretty wild to see here. We did take out the previous high above $118,000, and we are now back into this consolidation zone. Now, this is awfully aggressive. I would preferably like to see some kind of consolidation, nothing major, but even if this thing just can consolidate back to the 118 level and just give us a little sideways action before the next move higher, that way not everybody and their brother is leverage longing this. Maybe something similar to we saw here where we went straight up, we consolidated a bit, and then we continued to flush out some longs and go to a new all-time high. Obviously, this has already been a big consolidation period, so we don't need big flush outs, but just some kind of stop and consolidate to create a bull flag or something so we can head higher more organically would be preferred. Because imagine this, if this thing just goes to new all-time highs here, that means it needs to go up another 5 to 10% above 125, and that would look pretty unsustainable, and that's when you probably do need a bigger flush out if this continues to go up another $10,000. Nothing big, like I said, $1,000 consolidation is all you really need there on Bitcoin. Bitcoin is up 1%. Let's see what the altcoins are doing. Ethereum is up 1.5%. Well, no, we keep saying Ethereum is going to outperform Bitcoin, and there you go. It is outperforming. Back above $4,400, back into this large consolidation. You got to see 5,000 plus ETH to get excited. I know you have the same thought. Maybe you want to touch on Ethereum a little bit, but this overhead resistance isn't up here till like 5,400, 5,500. And when that happens, you got blue skies, all-time highs, altcoins are ripping, euphoria is everywhere, strategic reserve prices are absolutely mooning, and Crypto Paradise community is absolutely winning.
Well, you just described the exact future. When that future comes to fruition, I don't know. Could it be a week? Could it be a month? I don't know, but it's coming. So 5,400 ETH, guys, book it. It is happening, I think, likely after Bitcoin. I mean, Bitcoin's really not that far below its previous all-time high. Previous all-time high is 124,000. So we need $6,000. So 6% gain essentially from here. A little less actually, for it to break its previous all-time high. So for all the naysayers out there, 124K was the all-time high. I sold everything. You know, the 4-year halving cycle says that it ends at exactly 523 and a half days and 4 hours. You know, it turns out you guys are wrong. So in any event, I hope you guys held on. Bitcoin's going to have to break its all-time high, I believe, and then Ethereum will follow suit. Look, gold is that, you know, let's say, for lack of a better word, gold standard for where the market's going. And gold just smash, smash, smash every day, all-time highs. Bitcoin will follow. Ethereum will follow. Altcoins will follow after that. So everything's playing out. We're all good here, guys. I know it was a little scary a couple weeks ago when we had all the leverage longs flushed out by Binance. But that was pure manipulation. The market is bullish. We are on a bull run. And so hold on to your hats.
And here's gold here, trying to break through that 3,900 level. Remember, our target on gold was $3,900 to $4,000. It's hit the 3,900 level not once, but twice now for 16.84% gains since the breakout. Now, why does that 16.84% really matter? I mean, you can kind of extrapolate how much further Bitcoin could do. Say this is a major top on gold somewhere around here. Bitcoin is currently 11x or 10x undervalued to gold by market capitalization. Let's just use 10x to make it simple and be conservative. That means that potentially you see this 16.84% breakout. That is 168% for Bitcoin to match that move. If you get that, that isn't quite a 3x on Bitcoin, but it is a little over 2x, which puts you close to that 300K level. Now, do we get to 300K this cycle? We'll see. If we go deep into 2026, I think we do. If we only go to Q1 of 2026, probably not. We probably get to my 244K mark. But I think this is just shows you the potential. How much money is out there for a gold that is worth $25 trillion to go up 16%? It is not much for Bitcoin to go up 1x, 2x, 3x, considering it's only worth $2.5 trillion under current market construction.
Yeah, when you put it that way, I mean, doubling up from here seems perfectly reasonable, right? If there's that much money in the world sloshing around to pump a $22 trillion asset up to 25 in the course of 3 or 4 weeks, well, it would seem reasonable that you could get another 2.5 trillion into Bitcoin over the course of the next, 6 to 12 months, right? If we assume an elongated cycle and this is following a 5-year cycle and we're on the 2026 and for all the reasons we talk about. So if those things come true, I think it's perfectly within the realm of reason to say doubling up a Bitcoin, which would leave it right at your 244. I'm just saying that could be spot on. We'll see how this all plays out, guys. But I keep saying this, even if you're skeptical, even if you're, one of those guys that's slightly bearish out there, you don't really believe too much in this asset and couldn't possibly go that high, and look at the previous cycles and it's going to stop in October. Well, look, I think everyone, even if you're saying those things, thinks it's going to go higher from this point here right now. And so if you're thinking about dumping all your Bitcoin today, I would say no. Calm down, chill out, don't do that. It's going to go higher, whether it hits Nick's 244 or whether something a little bit more conservative. We ain't topping out at 119K on October 2nd.
Well, Icy, the new puppy, jumped up here because she wants you to go through the chat box and say hello to everybody who's over on the YouTube Live. Make sure to hit that like, share, and subscribe button, whether you're on YouTube or whether you are on Twitter. Leave your comments in the comment section below. Your questions, we will get to those as well. You guys can direct the live show.
Say hello to all the listeners here. Saying hello to me, Chapo, and Martin. We got Todd. Absolutely. If you're watching this and not smashing like, share, and subscribe, what are you thinking? I couldn't have said it better myself. What are you thinking, guys? Come on, get on the crypto paradise train. We're having fun out here. We're making money, and hopefully learning something along the way. Back from another vacation. I mean, this guy goes on more vacations than I do. I guess you've been in crypto long enough to just go on endless vacations. Good work, Hex. Glad to have you back. And just got a question for Nick. Weekly, you see the Bitcoin Weekly said Golden Cross, evidence of a longer cycle.
I mean, I don't really look at golden crosses all that much. I do look at moving average crosses on the 4-hour. Usually the golden cross you're quoting on the daily or the weekly, but that is a bullish indicator, a lagging indicator for things to come. So yeah, I mean, a golden cross added to the list of all the macro fundamentals that we go through each and every day that says that, hey, this is a potentially elongated cycle for many reasons, and let's add the golden cross from Hex here to that list. We need to make a website. There's the one website that has 35 bull market indicators and none of them have been hit. We need the list of like 100 things on why this cycle won't end on December and will continue into 2026.
Well, I'll tell you, one major factor, hope you guys can see my screen here. Now, it's just rumors thus far. It's just rumors as far as I can tell, but we have a number of different sources now on Twitter saying and suggesting that the White House may use their gold reserves to buy Bitcoin. And you know what? This would be completely in line with the executive order that Donald Trump signed, because that order stated they can in fact buy Bitcoin as long as it's done in a budget neutral way. Well, if you're just taking money from over here and moving it to over there, you didn't lose any money. Budget neutral by definition, right? In the U.S., I don't know, maybe Nick, you can pull it up, how much gold the U.S. owns, but I think it's an absurd amount. I think it's just a ridiculous amount that's just sitting there in Fort Knox doing nothing. Well, granted, it's done well as an investment, but if I were running the government, why not diversify a little bit?
Holy cow!
Sell high over on the Bitcoin, over on the gold, buy low on the Bitcoin. It makes a lot of sense to me.
I can't even, comprehend how much gold this is. The United States owns approximately, just the U.S. government. This is the federal government too. Each individual state or local government may have a gold holding. You can look at some of the state holdings. So that's not even including state, our local governments, or our citizens and what we have in our own jewelry boxes. Federal government owns approximately 8,133.5 metric tons of gold. Each ton is 2,000 pounds, I believe, when I was learning about how much elephants weigh. So that is, holy cow, that is massive.
Yeah, I don't even know. That's trillions of dollars, presumably, or at least hundreds of billions.
In early 2025, the book value, so what they have down on the book for that weight, was 757 billion, and we know that was early 2025. We know gold is up significantly since then, 20% or more. So yeah, trillions of dollars of gold held by just the U.S. federal government, not state, not local. That's a lot of gold.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. So, look, is this guaranteed to happen? No. Is this still just a rumor? Yes, but man, it's leaked from a number of different places. And, you guys know who's in charge. Donald J. Trump. He's a Bitcoin bull. He's a crypto bull. His whole family's involved in the industry now. So you better believe they are looking at ways to execute on this. And we said that from the beginning, right? We said that the executive order wasn't the be-all, end-all. You needed to see follow-through on it, and you are going to see follow-through, but it was just a matter of time. And what the details were going to be. And now it feels like we're getting a little bit more signal on this. I don't know. Again, is this definitely going to happen? I don't know. But I think nation-state FOMO is a real thing. We have some other stories to share with you guys once we get through some of these great questions, because I don't want to ignore your guys' awesome questions here. We got one from Hex. Yeah, we like to talk about Dr. Prophet too, don't we? He's a little wrecked. He's a little wrecked, probably, if he's been in these shorts for as long as he has.
Well, and I don't like to target anybody. It's just that's the one that's on the feed. And when we talked about Dr. Prophet in yesterday's live show, is more a broader of what the influencers and KOLs and gurus are saying. And they're just either saying the top has already happened, or hey, due to this Fed discussion, you need to be short, and it's going into the 90s. Well, how has that worked out for you? I don't know what his current positions are. It looks like Hex is actually following those, saying Dr. Prophet has raised his shorts from 115 to 110 to 125 to 119 to 121. Sounds like I don't know what he's doing. Hopefully his actual portfolio isn't as wrecked as his trades on the Twitter account. Be careful who you follow. Be careful using leverage in moments of consolidation in crypto, because consolidation breeds massive volatility in crypto, and it could be in either direction. This time we were right, and it's to the upward direction. It could have very well been down, but when you consolidate in crypto, the breakouts happen quickly and they sustain for multiple days, which means you sit there and you're like, oh, I'll just wait for it to come back to me. You wake up the next morning, you're down again, and before you know it, you could be getting liquidated or cutting your portfolio in half. So be careful on there during consolidation periods. The bull market is not over. You do not leverage short the bull market with large portions of your portfolio.
Yeah, leveraging short in the bull run is a highly, highly risky endeavor, isn't it? And we don't target anybody, but I just feel like there's a lot of voices out there that if you follow them to a T and you're really not a tactician and you really don't know what you're doing out of that experience, you'll end up getting wrecked. And we don't want that. So, the message that we keep putting out there is kind of the opposite. Maybe it's not that exciting. Maybe it's not that sexy and oh my God, oh, he put in a short and let's see how it goes, whatever. Buy and hold spot for a long time. It's not that hard. You probably won't lose money, so we don't want anyone to ever lose money. Dr. Profit, I don't know. I can't really say one way or another if he feels the same. Another way not to lose money. You get into EHEX at launch and you take profits. That's absolutely true, man. I made all my money in crypto basically in pre-sales, which is sort of the same concept. Buying in early stage, obviously a lot miss, a couple of them hit big, and financial freedom. So there you go. We're hunting for those gems too.
It looks like he's about to be doing that again, because this is somebody who bought early EHEX and took profits when it did a 10,000x, and now Hex says he's writing PTGC, UFO, and Surf from launch now. So it looks like he's prepping his portfolio to do it once again, because if Pulse Chain gets going, does a 10x or even a 25x, and most people say if Pulse Chain doesn't do 100x this cycle, it's a complete and utter failure. What do you think that does to PTGC, UFO, and Surf? They are going to go much higher, and they both all pay you passive income, and they all burn their own supply. So shout out to Hex Bull. It looks like you'll be on endless vacations again if we can get any kind of help from Pulse Chain.
Yeah, shout out to Hex for holding Surf. Appreciate your support there, bud. Great to have OG Hexicans and OG Pulsicans in Surf. That's what we love and we need. This is an interesting comment here from Martin. A little tongue-in-cheek, a little bit of a joke maybe, but, I think there could come a time, we're not talking about this administration, maybe not even next, but, I don't know, 3 or 4 administrations from now, when you have people who maybe are our age or, not, they would be older than, but, millennials, whatever, who are finally in charge of the government. Don't you think they'll be looking at stuff like that? ETH. Buying, using government funds to buy Ethereum. Like, is that completely insane to think that in 3 or 4 presidential cycles, when the millennials are in charge, that they would think to do something like that? So I know you're saying it's a joke, but something like that could happen if your time horizon is long enough, guys. Absolutely.
Well, and it's interesting about that as well is you just had Joe Lubin on stage at maybe who's at whatever conference is going on overseas. But he was talking about how there's a misvaluation of these Ethereum strategic reserves, the Bitcoin strategic reserves, the Doge strategic reserves, stating that once, everybody's looking at it as the AUM of the asset that it's holding, rather than looking at the actual revenue that asset is producing. And he has did a math and said even if they only get 3%, buy no more Ethereum, get 3% on their current investment, that would be a company in SharpLink Gaming that earns $100 million in revenue per year with very little overhead. And we do know, tech companies or even large cap companies like Apple, Nvidia, AMD trade at a big multiple due to their projected revenue and profits forward looking. So he's saying, hey, even if we bought no more ETH and we only earn 3% and we don't even compound it, this is a company that produces $100 million in revenue a year, and that's why I think there's a big disconnect between the actual value of these strategic reserve companies versus what they're actually producing in real world yields. So that comes down to the Ethereum, funding the entire country. It's like, yeah, the yield and revenue from staking Ethereum, if it becomes the global, usage for stable coins and everything else, is absolutely massive because it's already huge right now at the current valuations, which we think it's 4x undervalued. So, I mean, what is the revenue of some of these strategic reserves if Ethereum and when Ethereum goes to 10,000, 15,000, 20,000, even if they bought no more ETH? And we just talked about yesterday how BitMine and SharpLink Gaming want to own 5% of the total supply of ETH, 5 million ETH that are all staking, earning at least 3% yield. You're looking at multi-hundreds of millions of dollars of revenues per year for those companies with very little overhead.
Yeah, I think the average crypto DJ is kind of hard to wrap their head around. Like 3% annual returns, like that's good. Like anyone would take action over 3% annual returns. Actually, on Wall Street and traditional finance, that is pretty good. For a dividend, certainly for a dividend, it's great. And then you add into the fact that the underlying asset could easily double or triple over the course of, a cycle or two, and you're looking at, close to 10% that you gained in net. So, yeah, don't sleep on the staking. That's coming, by the way, for the ETFs as well. That's a huge story that hasn't really been, I don't think, been priced in yet for Ethereum. So, yeah, we're looking good on ETH. We're looking good on Bitcoin. Hex actually want us to pull up the website tracking the bull market indicators. Maybe you can do that because in the meanwhile here, oh, you got it. Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful.
Always reading ahead.
There
Always
you
reading
go.
ahead. Yeah, so this, I mean, if you type in Bitcoin bull market peak indicators, there's a couple websites that are now APIing this, like CMC APIs this, but I think this is kind of the original, and this is the one that I use, called CoinGlass. And you can see here, right now it says hold 100%. And that is because all the historical top indicators, not a single one has been hit. What's interesting about this is you can actually click on this and see exactly what it is, but you can also see the percentage progress towards it being hit. And a lot of these are still very low. Like even these top indicator, like 59%, which means that the Bitcoin bull run still has a 40% to go before this top indicator is hit. 56%, 60%, only 10%, 55%, 31%. I mean, you can go through all these. Here's some at that RSI 22-day is at 74%. You got the Bitcoin dominance is at 89%. Bitcoin long-term HODL supply at 87%. So some of these are getting close-ish, which may be in line with the 4-year halving cycle, but a lot of these are still 50% or lower. So you can dive deep into each of these. Maybe I need to do a series where I do a short form video for each indicator, maybe a little 1-minute clip for each of these indicators, and that would be a nice 30 video series to kind of talk about these potential top indicators for Bitcoin. And we do know when Bitcoin tops, it doesn't mean the whole market cycle is over. Usually Bitcoin tops, then you do have a month or two of Ethereum and altcoins kind of doing their final euphoria run, their blow off tops, as people in Bitcoin start to take profits, but they have the itchy finger just like all of us. They're like, okay, I killed it on Bitcoin. What can I roll it into next? What can I do for the final couple months here of the bull market to really solidify financial freedom? Some of them get caught with their hand in the cookie jar, and some of them make more profits, but that's how we do get that euphoria even after Bitcoin already saw its top.
All right, so you'll play with your indicators and your fancy data and your charts. You know what I'm going to do to determine whether the top is in? I'm just going to walk down the street. I'm going to jump into a taxi cab, get my hair cut, pop into a local bar and see, is any of those people talking about their Bitcoin and their XRP and their Ethereum and how well they've done over the past whatever? Because I'll tell you right now, that's not happening. We haven't hit euphoria, guys. Although I'm making a funny joke because we haven't hit the euphoric phase yet. Isn't that obvious? Like, this is great. This solidifies my beliefs and my observations and my analysis. But to me, it's fairly obvious we have not hit euphoria yet, right? You kind of know when you hit euphoria. You kind of know. You can sort of sense it. First of all, people have had actually made money in the markets other than just Bitcoin. You know what I mean? So we're not there yet. We're not there yet, guys. I mean, everything's looking great. Everything's lined up for a brilliant October and Movember and Bullcember, whatever you want to call those. So we're lining up. We're looking good, but we haven't hit euphoria yet. And I think that's kind of obvious across the board.
Yeah, I mean, right now, the things that are moving is Bitcoin is up very good, obviously, which has been primarily just institutions and Michael Saylor and the OGs in the space. And then Ethereum is starting to do very well, which means some retailers are talking about it. Some KOLs and influencers like ourselves are getting a little excited. But for the general public, either the retail is not in the markets yet at all, or two, the retail that is here from last cycle or got in during the bear market, a couple meme coin mini cycles, they're all down on their funds. They're not looking at their portfolio yet until they tune into Crypto Paradise and we're like, oh my gosh, Pepe's up 300%. They have no idea what they're owning. They're not talking about it. They're not bragging about it to friends or family because right now they are down. If they go bring it to a friend, they'll be like, well, didn't you tell me to buy that at $1 and now it's 60 cents? They need to see green in their portfolio before they get excited or want to port any more money into the market. So yes, some retailers are here. Obviously, we've had multiple cycles. There's more participants right now than there was last cycle. But none of them are talking, none of them are putting extra funds in there, and none of them are expanding it by talking to friends and family because they're down. Nothing is going up but Bitcoin and Ethereum and BNB. Everything else is pretty much down. No microcaps are really doing well. We haven't even had a little meme season in quite a while. So this is the time for us to build up and cultivate the next wave. And the euphoria is not here. Aster has done well. Aster did a 4 or 5x, but the people who got in, you had to FOMO buy when CZ tweeted immediately. Who's seeing that? Those are the people in the trenches, not the retail participants, not your mom, not your grandma.
All excellent points and irrefutable across the board. But I will just remind folks that we at Crypto Paradise have been imploring on almost every daily show here to have some exposure to Bitcoin. have some exposure to ETH, have some exposure to BNB, to Solana, to the big caps, because they do run first. We know that. And if you're just in the tiny caps, I'm not saying ignore all the tiny cap. We are in low cap gems and we like in the trenches too. But have some exposure, God, at least in the beginning part of the bull run, to the big caps. So that way you feel like you're a part of the uptrend. I think about myself, like, yeah, my low caps are done shit and they're down 50, 80, 90%, whatever. But hey, my Bitcoin's done well, my ETH's done well, my Solana, BNB. So I'm not feeling so upset. So yeah, I mean, look, we don't have euphoria, we don't have really new retail coming in yet, but hopefully you guys at Crypto Paradise have done halfway decent this cycle by, sticking to some big caps as well as, taking some moonshots there as well.
Yeah, and talking about that, of course, we have the Surf token that launched at, what do we even launch that thing at? 16K market cap or 11K market cap, I think it was. That's still worth 600,000, 700,000 market cap. So for the people who got in early there, congrats. We continue to buy and burn that. You're going to see the uptrend start again here very soon. But just by being a Surf holder, you get in the Frontier Fund. The Frontier Fund is paying out 10 to 25% monthly after fees. They continue to do well. I'm excited to see what their update is. Hopefully they were long. Hopefully they were long during this crypto armor. I don't know if there's an update on Frontier Fund, but that is another way that we are pulling some profits in these market conditions, even though the altcoins aren't really moving. We're in the fund that's primarily just trading Bitcoin, Ethereum, and Solana, and that's really about it. And they continue to do well for us on a month-over-month basis. So if you're interested in the Frontier Fund, hit us up, get 400,000 Surf, and you can get in the next round here probably in about 25 days.
Yeah, man. We're still finding ways to make money in this cycle, even though it's been tough. So I'm glad you brought that up. I just want to share my screen again because we've just been talking a bit about catalysts that we think are going to cause Bitcoin to run to that 200K level and beyond. Looks like Sweden's joining the nation-state Fomo. This new proposed law was just presented to their parliament, whereby they're looking to buy Bitcoin. And in the proposal, or at least the commentary around it, they're basically saying, hey, the United States is doing this, other countries are doing this, we don't want to be left behind. And so, look, whether Sweden pulls the trigger, I mean, we'll see, but it's just an example. This is how whole countries are starting to view this asset class, which is an incredible thing to think. I mean, God, thinking back to like 2017, whenever when I got involved with crypto, Nick, you were a little earlier. Could you even imagine, any of these countries, Sweden, El Salvador, we got Kazakhstan, the list goes on, of course, the United States. Could you fathom that they would even entertain such a thing as using money to buy Bitcoin?
No, I mean, I worked in institutional finance back then, and I always said, hey, these are going to become investable institutional investments. You're going to be able to get in Bitcoin and ETH. You're going to have institutions saying, hey, put 1 to 3% of your portfolio into Bitcoin just like they do for precious metals. Never did I think governments would embrace it this kind of way where they're actually putting it on their books. And with each one of these countries, people kind of look over this. But understand what this could turn into. Right now you have gold. You have the United States now has 200,000 Bitcoin that are never going to be sold, and they're looking how to get more. El Salvador buys at least 1 Bitcoin per day every single day. Now, maybe Switzerland comes online and like, hey, we're going to buy 0.1 Bitcoin every single day. When you have a scarce digital asset that also has a set inflation rate, the more market participants that are buying each and every day, regardless of price, that is how prices go up and to the right, because the supply and demand gets all out of whack, and that's how you get supply shock. So each one of these countries, whether they're buying $100 a day, $10,000 a day, $100,000 a day, it doesn't matter. These are just, look at them as massive retail participants that are DCAing into their bags each and every day. You might only be doing $5 or $10 a day. They're doing $10,000, $50,000, $100,000 a day on the scarce digital asset of Bitcoin.
That's another thing too, right? I don't think people fully understand the amount of money that truly exists in the world. It's hard to wrap your head around because it's like $900 trillion worth of like all assets, and that includes real estate and illiquid stuff. But if you're talking about all liquid assets, the number is like enormous. And so, people, I think, overlook that a bit, or maybe they don't fully understand that. Perhaps, Nick, you can find some data on the total value of all liquid assets in the world. I mean, we pull up that list, the list of valuable companies often. But anyway, there's just so much money, even a small fraction that's flowing into Bitcoin and Ethereum. We're talking about an asset class that presently is worth less than $4 trillion, or approximately $4 trillion. A single company on the S&P 500, Nvidia, is worth $4.5 trillion. A single company. And there's hundreds of companies like that, or at least dozens that are valued that high, and then many of the others are also valued quite high. So there's a ton of money in the world, ton of liquid money in the world. It doesn't take a whole lot. You know, you move a couple more $1 trillion in this asset class, and we are at the numbers that we talk about here on the show every day.
Yeah, as of early 2025, which means that these numbers would be higher now because asset values have gone up. The total value of liquid assets in the world is approximately 285 trillion. And then the total value of illiquid assets, which includes real estate, global wealth, is estimated at over $500 trillion for a total of over $800 trillion. And that was early 2025 when we know that asset prices across the board were all 15, 20, 50% lower. So yeah, you're probably looking at 1,000 trillion. Like, what comes after trillion? Because that's what we're approaching.
I don't know, actually.
I don't know. Big numbers, guys. That is wild. I got to go back to grade school and learn how to count above
my
$1
son
trillion.
might know. My son might know that. But yeah, guys, we're bottom line is we're early. Nation states are coming. There was another story I wanted to pull up around the order that Trump recently signed. It kind of, and we talked about it a little bit, but it was the order saying that 401ks here in the U.S. can now include and buy, Bitcoin and Bitcoin-related assets, which had not yet been allowed. So that hasn't become fully effectuated yet in terms of, everyday Americans actually going to their Schwab account and seeing that available, I don't think. But that order was signed a few weeks ago, and that's just another thing, man. There's just so many of these catalysts that, to me, you add them all up. You add the Fed to sort of the mix here as well. Historical, Q4 after the halving. You add that to it. I mean, and the fact that gold's gone bananas, the S&P 500, NASDAQ, all at all-time highs. We are absolutely in a mega bull run. It just hasn't quite hit Bitcoin yet in a way that people have accepted and wrapped their head around, okay, we're in a bull run. So the thing that slow grind up has sort of left people questioning, whether this is really a thing, because we haven't had a parabolic phase yet to speak of, outside of maybe a little bit last year, the end of last year when Trump won. But anyway, I mean, look, we're early, and it's just a good spot to be here, guys.
Yeah, let's look at a couple more charts because they are all doing well. If you've been tuning in live, you can get these positions, or if you're in the surf dial, or join us at patreon.com/learncrypto. We see here Coinbase is surging above the previous high here, up to 359. I had a target of 365 to 377. It did wick to 365 at the open. Obviously, we're doing a live show, and I wasn't ready to just sell it yet. You still got a little room on the RSI, but interesting to see if this wants to consolidate and make another move up into the 370s. I do like Coinbase for the long term, but we got to trade it for profits. It is a large cap now, so no problem selling out of that. Stay tuned to see when we sell that. Nonetheless, you are up on that position. We got to go to GameStop because every time we talk about this, it just seemingly is up again. Now our buys are up 26% as of yesterday's live show. Well, nope, they're up higher, up 28.97%. Target is still into the 30s. Snapshot for holders is tomorrow. What happens after the snapshot? Maybe some short-term volatility. But again, we got Cohen in the news because David Portnoy from Barstool says he was on a 15-minute phone call with Cohen and is interested in interviewing him. And why is that important? Because David Portnoy is kind of the king of retail, the king of degenerates, the king of sports bettors. And if he gets them on the side of GameStop as well, that is a lot of retail money that will pump into GameStop and have that meme narrative come back to life. Again, they have like 9 or 10 billion cash. I said 600 million Bitcoin yesterday. It's probably 650 million Bitcoin now today. We'll see what they continue to do. But every live show, I just got to drag this up another percentage or two, which is pretty wild to see for a stock pick. MicroStrategy up 3.7%, obviously, because Bitcoin is up and they own a shit ton of Bitcoin. NASDAQ is trying to get to new all-time highs. That saw new all-time highs at the open, slightly off of that, but continues to grind higher. NASDAQ is all the tech stocks. This kind of drives the risk on assets, the collectibles, the Bitcoin, etc., and it just keeps grinding higher. I mean, this just looks almost too perfect, like there's market makers there, or almost like there's people who put into this every 2 weeks when they get paid. I don't know. Maybe that's what the United States does with their 401ks. Yes, that's exactly what it does. That's why stocks continue to go up and to the right, because whether people like it or not, every 2 weeks their money gets dumped into the markets.
I dump my money in the markets. I do it once a month. But yeah, that's because in 30 years it's gonna be worth more. So that's what you do. Hold on one sec. My wife is calling me. I will BRB. Maybe you want to pull up. I got the assets by market cap pulled up. Let me share my screen. Maybe you go through that. Hold on, because I just love this illustration here. Give me a sec.
Yeah, I can't really scroll down, guys, but you can see that gold is now above 25 trillion and above 26 trillion dollar market cap. And I think if you scroll down, Bitcoin's only something like 2.5 trillion. That's where we get it could do it 11x, 12x just to catch gold. We've seen Nvidia still staying strong, Microsoft and Apple staying strong. If I take the screen back over, one that isn't doing strong, that is worth a ton of money, that is actually Netflix. Netflix in the news for all of the wrong reasons. One of the cartoons on Netflix is supposed to be for 6-year-olds, and the characters are talking about being transgenders. You know my opinion on that whole ecosystem. I think it's a debacle. I think it's disgusting, and it should not be pushed on your children. And the market agrees with me. Netflix going to new lows. It is sitting on the moving average at 1140. I don't think it's going to be priced into the earnings that we see on October 21st, because this is, again, on a 3-month lag. I think you're going to see the negative effects of people getting off of that subscription 3 months from October. So probably whatever that is, the December 21st or the January 21st earning reports. We'll see how this goes. Obviously, Netflix is a big market participant in the NASDAQ and is one of the assets dragging the NASDAQ down today. So, you think people would wake up and realize that they don't want that pushed on their kids. They've lost billions of dollars in value due to this decision, and they're defending the creators. They're not removing that cartoon. So the market is going to continue to bleed. I would expect to see some kind of maybe bounce or support here at the moving average. Again, these earnings are going to be okay because this is on the prior 3 months. I think you're really going to see the implication of this action in December or January. So we'll keep you stay tuned on that. We don't really have a Netflix position, but Netflix does have a big importance in the overall NASDAQ index.
We probably all have a Netflix position if you have any index funds.
Exactly.
So everyone should care about Netflix, just like I'm care about Nvidia, Microsoft, Facebook, etc. I saw some of that news around the woke cartoon. I didn't think much of it, but you're saying that people are actually selling their Netflix stock because of a result of that.
Well, for Netflix to be down 15% while the index itself is at all-time highs is kind of
15%.
Yeah, clear indication of that. And there's numbers running, there's websites running showing the totals of the unsubscriptions of Netflix, and that's why I'm saying to keep an eye on this. Again, there's earnings end of October. It's not going to impact that because that's the previous 3 months, so it's not going to show that. But in the following 3 months, if they don't get those subscribers back, which you're probably not going to, in December or January, you're going to see massive decreases in subscribers in Netflix based off of what is on the kids section of Netflix and some of the choices that they're doing there. I personally have a 5-year-old. I do not want my 5-year-old seeing cartoons making out with each other, transgenderism, or any of that nonsense. And now that's not even safe. Netflix had that barrier to where only you can watch kid shows, but now that's the kid shows that they're allowing to be on the network, and that's why you see all these massive cancellations.
That's fucking crazy, man. Yeah, they should pull that off ASAP. I mean, the people have spoken. That's clearly not appropriate for children to be watching. That's insane. The other thing about Netflix has pissed me off for much longer. This is a new story, but Netflix just kept raising its rates. I just don't know if the quality of shows. I mean, they had some good shows. They have good shows, and they have some good movies. But the quality of the shows relative to the cost, it's starting to get it's not making sense to me. It's not really adding up anymore. And I'm probably not going to cancel because I'm just lazy like that. But 22, I mean, it used to be like $8 a month, and now I'm paying like 25. So I'm not sure how I feel about that. To be honest.
Remember when they told us they were protecting us from the monopoly of cable? But now you need Netflix and Hulu and Peacock and HBO and Stars. It's like you're paying way more now than when I just used to pay Charter and get all those included for free. The monopoly effect is all a scam.
But if that's only true if you're not stealing the password from your neighbor or your friends.
That's
just
true.
saying.
That's true. Let's keep going down this list before we wrap it up. What else do we got here? What else have we been talking about in the live shows here?
How's B&B looking today? I'm curious on B&B. Gold down a little bit right now, or just like a fraction? A little bit.
We talked about gold earlier in the show. We got XRP here, still floating around the $3 mark. Isn't our favorite. People will say, hey, this is consolidating for the next move higher. Again, I think it goes higher if the whole market goes higher, but this is just not an asset I want to be in. And it isn't unlike XRP to just consolidate for entire cycles like we saw from 2017 to now. If you bought it in 2017 peak to now, you're actually down on XRP. That's not an asset that I want to be in.
That is crazy. That is crazy. I don't own any XRP. I do think it will go up this cycle though.
Right.
If Bitcoin hits the 200K and the Ethereum is 10K, you will see that like $5, XRP. But you see these influencers out there talking about $10,000 XRP. These just absurd numbers. It'll never get there. I don't even think and it's not even going to outperform the other majors. So I stay away from that. There's BNB. If you like assets that are not Bitcoin, or if you're looking for assets that are not Bitcoin or Ethereum, Solana, BNB. What other ones out there I like? Even Cardano. I like a chain link. If we're talking about big caps that have room to outperform XRP, I think there's plenty of them out there listed right on your Coinbase if you don't want to be a full degen.
And what is going on with Zcash? Zcash, the former giant in the last two bull markets ago. There's tons of bag holders here. ZK snarks and privacy is becoming a main topic. Zcash is mooning from that, up like 150% in the past 7 days. Again, Zcash doesn't have the technology or the backing, in my opinion, to have sustained runs. Unless I missed a news article about an airdrop or something, there's going to be people selling into Zcash. There's big holders from the past 2 cycles that were stuck in their bag. So this is one I probably would be selling and rotating into something else. That is also affecting Zen here. Zen is back above $10, up 17%, trying to chase Zcash. Zen is a smaller cap, 21 million, so I would like this one over the 2 if you're looking at ZK Starks and privacy coins. Also, Zen was just launched about 12 minutes ago. It's featured on Anthony Pompliano's show, so that's probably helping this bit as well. So we'll keep an eye on that. I do have some Zen from back in the day, and Zen did just migrate over to the Base chain. And if Base is doing an airdrop, maybe Zen will catch the spotlight if that happens. So Brian Armstrong pumped Base, so Zen can keep pumping. I do believe privacy is very important when we see the UK now. Britain is talking about everybody needs a digital ID, otherwise you can't work. That is kind of the wave of the future. We're very against CBDCs, and now they're wanting digital IDs and everything else. Well, at some point, you're going to have no privacy unless there is some kind of privacy currencies in the blockchain that can kind of shield your identity or allow you to do transactions with everybody without everybody seeing your exact bank account. So that's the update on those. Nice to see some massive outperformance.
Right? Like the feds and the authorities, if they really want to find every shit that you've been doing, trust me, they can find it. Maybe that's just me paranoid watching me spy movies, but I think I'm not saying privacy is an important thing, but I just think it's we're already lost that battle. Is my skeptic's take. But in any event, what I like about these 2 projects, shooting up here, 20-some% gainer in a day, 17%, you start to see sort of the quote random projects mooning like this overnight. Bodes very well for altcoins. If we can get this to sustain itself and you start to see green shoots popping up on random coins, green shoots beget more green shoots, and you start to materialize in a proper alt season. So even if you're not in these plays, which I am not, I'm very happy to see it because to me it suggests that we are going to enter an alt season here relatively soon.
Yeah, like you said, you just want to see these sustain. Like you don't want this to happen and then us come all the way back down here. Now there is no speculation. Everybody's like, okay, cool, I should have sold that, and then they sell the next rally. You want to see these sustain. This can go up. This can reconsolidate back to $10 or even $9, but you want that to happen and then go on another leg, and then people are like, oh shit, I shouldn't have sold, or oh shit, am I missing something here? Is this the next narrative? And start piling money into the markets. That's what you want to see. We need to see some sustained growth from these altcoins rather than just up 20% and it gives it all back. We don't want that. That's not good for these assets. That's not good for the general market sentiment, and that's not good for an alt season. So let's see what happens. We'll keep following those.
Stop jeeting your bags, you jeets. Stop jeeting your damn bags. Have some conviction. If you liked Horizon and you were in Horizon, why not hold it up until the parabolic phase of the bull run? Like, did you hold it all this time to make 20%? I certainly hope not. So stop jeeting out, guys. Have some conviction. Shout out to Martin. We were talking about Netflix a second ago. You don't watch TV. You don't need TV. I sort of agree. Sort of disagree. I do watch a bit of TV. Not a lot. But, after my kids go to bed, winding down, try to find a Netflix show. That's not a crazy thing. I think I'm probably a majority of people that do that. Do I need to spend hundreds of dollars every month on subscriptions to like and getting like 10,000 options of content at my fingertips every day? Probably not. Probably
Yeah,
not. But
that's
hey,
very true. I don't watch much, but it's the sports, and then it's the before bed. Like, I shower, I get in bed, I'm scrolling my phone, I turn a movie on. Sometimes I watch the
that's
whole
what I'm
movie.
saying.
Sometimes I fall asleep, and it takes me 3 nights to watch a movie. But that's kind of the decompression zone.
There
And then
you
we're
go.
talking.
Nothing wrong with that. Bright Light agrees. Salute to Bright Light. Absolutely, sir. Let us know if you still have your Netflix subscription or did you cancel it because they're sending a bunch of woke bullshit to our kids.
Yeah, that's wild. We have SBET and Bitminer here. We already talked about these strategic reserve companies, and these ones are doing well, up over 3% each. BMNR looking like it's trying to go and break out. We're up 70% on that position. We bought the exact low, just saying. We would love to see this be a massive bull flag and a breakout to the upside and get above $160. That is in the cards. It doesn't take much. If Ethereum is $8,000, Bitmine is going to be over $160. And what's interesting is Thomas Lee says when they get their 5 million ETH, then they're looking and exploring at ways to pass on some of the Ethereum passive income to its holders. Maybe that's in share buybacks. Maybe that's in cash dividends. Maybe that's in ETH dividends. Because remember, if the Ethereum spot ETF allows for Ethereum compounding and they figure all that out, it gets on chain, there's RWAs on actual blockchain, maybe dividends aren't only in stock shares. Maybe they're not only in cash. Maybe you'll get Ethereum dividends for holding these Ethereum strategic reserve companies. Maybe I'm crazy, or maybe by next cycle or next year, we will see that happening. Wouldn't that be wild? You're holding a traditional market stock and you're getting dividends, and you can opt to get those dividends in Ethereum to one of your wallets, to a verified wallet, or in stock shares, or in cash. That'd be pretty crazy.
Well, I'll tell you what. I mean, Paul Atkins, head of the SEC, and the entire Trump administration are very pro-innovation. They want to allow the market to do its thing. And if the market comes up with innovative solutions like the one you just described, let's not prevent them from putting that out in the market, right? Let's give them our stamp of approval. So if something like that's going to happen, it's going to happen under this administration. It's going to happen because the powers that be are pro-innovation. So I could absolutely, I mean, technically and logistically, that is all feasible, right? As long as you verify your wallet, etc. So that's possible. It just we need to get approval from the regulators, but absolutely, why not? Why not, guys?
And then we see here SharpLink Gaming stuck in between the two moving averages. This is usually a consolidation before a volatile move. Now, I don't think if Ethereum is going up, it's going to be a volatile move to the downside. I think it will be a break to the upside. And, again, we're down here at the low. You had a week to buy it when we told you to buy it before the big move to $40, and now we've been consolidating. And the big news out of SharpLink Gaming we discussed earlier, their target is no longer 1 million ETH. Their target is 5 million ETH. That means whatever your vision was on SharpLink Gaming's upside should now be 5x because that's how much Ethereum they want to buy. And then we also talked about how Joe Lubin was describing, even if they bought no more ETH and they only received 3% interest on that, they are a $100 million a year revenue, and they only have like 5 employees. So that's pretty crazy to see. I think SharpLink Gaming goes a lot higher if they reach their Ethereum targets.
We should replicate that business here at Crypto Paradise, right? Just buy a shit ton of ETH somehow. We'll get some people will give us money, buy a bunch of ETH, stake it. That's the business. That's the business, guys. Boom. We
no
got
more
it.
live shows.
We got it here. We figured it out. But wow, what an incredible thing, man. The ingenuity, the innovation happening right before our very eyes is just incredible. So do not sleep on those kind of stories. I actually got to jump soon because my kids just got back. They're off today again. Can you believe it? But great stuff today, folks. We'll be back tomorrow at the normal time, normal setup. But until next time, guys, we'll see you on the beach.